Hi, my name is Nathan Seidenbeber and the following is a presentation of the StakeWare Technology. What you're seeing here in this initial dashboard is a way to monitor complex issues that are multidimensional, that may have multiple stakeholders. And by stakeholders, I mean groups or individuals who may be impacted by whatever the operation of the company that's using the software is. In this case, we're simulating an oil company. So let's say that this company has projects in California, in New Mexico, San Juan, in the Anadarko Basin, in the Permian Basin in Texas, and in Denton, Texas as well. And in each one of these projects, they're monitoring different issues. So for example, in California, they're monitoring water conservation and climate change. And we can immediately see that on the issue of water conservation, Governor Jerry Brown is one of the most influential, clearly, and where there's been more activity. And how I can tell this? Because the color of the tile basically gives me that Jerry Brown in this group of tiles is the strongest in terms of interactions with him. And I can actually verify that and see how many interactions we've had, how many meetings, how many commitments we've made, etc. Now I can also see who is being influenced by Governor Brown, and as we can all tell, he's a fairly influential stakeholder. So you have this kind of information at your fingertips, and this enables you to basically get a bird's eye view of all of your projects and then drill down when necessary to get more details if an issue, let's say, becomes more problematic. So you can actually filter the information and view it also from the perspective of social media and see how that changes. This is just a random sample, but the idea is that we can see which from your stakeholders are tweeting or putting posts on Facebook on specific issues like fracking or Arctic drilling or things of that nature. Now, if I go back to my California example and I try to figure out, well, what do I need to do? What's the next step? I can actually go into the actual project here, hit my home page, and then I have a menu that basically gives me options to look at all the recent things that I've been working on, and I can go to California, and now I'm inside California, just looking at the stakeholders from California, where they located, and then I also can have a map of all of my activities. It's already color-coded by goals, by issues, complaints, etc. And I can drill in, and now I see this whole view of data. On the left here, I can see how much money we've invested in California, the level of risk. If I have some interaction with stakeholders via SMS or some other channel, I can view it here. I can view information on sensors, and I'll come back to that in a moment. I can see, how much events and what types of events I've had in this particular project. And then I can actually see, some keywords that I have associated, in this case, to a particular issue, let's say the issue of fracking, and say, Mendocino, EPA, and fracking. And Mendocino is the only county in California that actually banned the practice of fracking. So I'm interested in making sure that I understand what's going on in terms of those things. And I can see the velocity of some of these words as they appear on Twitter, and I can also see their acceleration, which can tell me if a word is becoming more important, if more people are catching on, if it's burning, so to speak. And then once I know that something is kind of going off the charts, I can actually drill down and say, well, what are people talking about? They're talking about, stopping a particular legislation, about their fears of earthquakes and water pollution and things of that nature. Now, here's where we differentiate from other companies that offer social listening tools. that now what we can do is, because we have a predetermined stakeholder relationship management system, we already know who are the stakeholders who are tweeting. So we can break the list of all the stakeholders tweeting, in this case about Mendocino and the EPA and fracking, and putting them into two lists, stakeholders and non-stakeholders. And sorry, there's a brief typo there on the right. So here on the left, I have my list of stakeholders, and I can do more analysis where I can actually see, for example, what is the level of influence using as a reference or as a measurement the number of Twitter followers that they have. And in these hypothetical scenarios, as you can see, the EPA, the California Department of Fish and Game, and Governor Jerry Brown are the three stakeholders that are most influential. You can see all the lines basically outlining the relationships of influence. And I can actually drill down, let's say at the EPA, and now I'm at a record level, at a granular level. I have all the intelligence that I need, that I've been capturing on my own resources, like all the meetings that I've attended of the EPA, a timeline of everything that has happened, color-coded by type of event or type of activity, if you will. Or I can also see a 360 report that basically gives me all of the different activities, but now I can also drill down and see evidence of the actual data. So let's say if at some point I took a measurement of their opinion on a particular issue of air quality of these stakeholders, I can go and retrieve that evidence and have all that information readily available for reporting purposes or for compliance. And I can even see more detail of who's actually doing what. Now, if I return back here to my dashboard, I just want to illustrate a different way in which we can integrate data. So for example, here on the left, you have two sensors or networks of sensors that are sending data, in this case monitoring CO2 emissions and NOx. And if I drill into the CO2, I can actually go into a scenario where I establish areas of impact that I can do, let's say here in the Bay Area. Let's say I'm going to set up a network of sensors around the Richmond refinery, including sensors in Berkeley and San Francisco. And depending on the distance from the refinery, I'm going to basically call these different areas primary, secondary, or tertiary. So I can actually drill down and start monitoring, let's say, information from one sensor in the Richmond refinery, and I can see, how it is behaving through the day. And if I actually would like to run a scenario where one of these CO2 emission sensors exceeds a threshold, let's say, of 350, and now I have a situation where there may be a fire in the refinery or something that's causing this anomaly, and because we have a network of sensors, as you can see here, at the Richmond refinery, sensor number 1, we have sensor number 2 in Oakland, and sensor number 3 in San Francisco, and sensor number 1 can actually go and talk to another sensor in the network, a commercial sensor, that's telling us the velocity of the wind and the direction. So in this case, is 5 miles per second, and the south, direction going in the south wind. So I can immediately, there's intelligence already in the system where sensor 1 communicates with sensor 2 and sensor 3 and says, as soon as you start seeing some increase in the level of CO2, please, notify me immediately. And then we can basically create a sort of an SOS alert where we have our 3 areas of impact on the left, and we can filter information by area of impact. We just wanted to focus on primary, secondary, etc. And then here on the right, we have information on, how many of the stakeholders that we have in this area are first responders or are people that we already know have some animosity towards what we're doing, things of that nature. And I can also look at census data. If I need to evacuate people, I may want to know how many people from ages 50 to 64 live in a particular county. So all these data coming together to help companies be more proactive, more predictive, and add intelligence to their operations. Now, if I return here to my example, let me just show you one last thing here. So, we collected all these data. We, let's say, do it on all of our facilities. Now what? Well, now you can actually have a whole set of analytic tools that can help you see whether or not you're improving on your data, you're improving your performance, you're making things better for the organization, and you can monitor that over time and basically help the users make informed decisions, more scientific decisions that are based on real data and not just intuition and information that's somewhat lost in documentation, SharePoints, Excels, etc. So this has been a brief presentation of the software, of the StakeWare software. Hope you enjoyed it, and thank you for your time.